Today, we're continuing the quest for $100,000. That's right. We're going to be over on Underdog doing their NBA Best Ball Double Dribble contest where the winner is taking home $100K. A quick refresher for those unfamiliar with NBA Best Ball, we're just drafting one time and then we set it and forget it. Each week, Underdog will take your best scores from your lineup to push it forward, and if you can get through your pod, you're well on your way to $100K. So we're going to be entering a 16-round draft. And each week, they'll take the two best guard scores, the two best wing scores, the best big score, and a best flex score. And this will take us throughout the regular season, and at the end, we will count every single dollar from that $100K first place prize. But before we get into the draft, we're going to set a few goals for this draft specifically. We're going to talk a lot throughout the draft about scarcity and position and who we're reaching for, who we're avoiding. But for this draft, here are a few goals for us to achieve. We're going to try to get 3 wing position players in the first 5 rounds of the draft. If we get one of the first 5 centers on the board, we're only going to take one more center the rest of the draft. And we want to get at least 2 high upside late round guard draft picks. We'll talk more about the guards as we get into the draft, but there's just so many opportunities for some moonshots from that position. All right, enough yapping. Let's get into the draft. We're finally drafting, and yeah, we've even done a wardrobe change. So as you can see, we're going to be in a little bit of a tricky spot as we are drafting from the 10 hole. So having picks 10 and 15, we're probably going to be in this weird spot of trying to thread a needle of maybe getting 2 wings or going wing guard, or if somebody like Anthony Davis falls all the way to 10, maybe that's where we're going. We've got our first weird thing as you see creep a 727 with the 7th overall pick, takes number 7, Jaylen Brown. And then we see Tatum and then Sabonis go off the board. So that leaves us with a couple of options. We can go Anthony Davis here at the 10 hole, and his ADP is 9. We could also jump up here and take somebody like Paolo or Scotty Barnes. I think we're going to risk it, though. I think we're going to go Anthony Davis. That's going to be our core big. But like we said at the top of the video, because we took a big, we're only taking another big for the rest of this draft. We see Eric Churst went LeBron James and Chet Holmgren at the turn. This is a weird start to the draft, and I can't believe it. Paolo Banchero went 14, but we are going to get Scotty Barnes, who has had an ADP of 12. I've got him ranked 13th. He has fallen to 15, so we get to start north of the border. So my fear with starting with somebody like Anthony Davis is I get nervous that both Paolo and Scotty Barnes are going to be off the board, and then we're taking somebody like LeBron or Kevin Durant, or we're taking a guard, and then we're not taking our first wing until round 3, which makes that other rule that we said of taking 3 wings in the first 5 rounds challenging. But now that we get Scotty Barnes, this really opens things up for rounds 3 and 4. Just a few spots away from our 3rd round pick, and I just saw Zion went off the board, and I was kind of intrigued about Zion, but we already took Anthony Davis. A rule's a rule. I do think we have a couple of different options here. I think I'm going to click Kawhi Leonard here. As tempted as I am, I really do like Cade Cunningham and would like a lot of Cade, but I feel like we might be able to get Cade around the other turn, depending on what they do here. Kawhi comes off the board, so that makes it a little trickier. I think what we'll do here is click Cade Cunningham and then maybe queue up Jalen Johnson and hope we get Jalen Johnson for our second wing. Jalen Johnson does fall to us. We do have the option of going to Damian Lillard, Paul George, or Jalen Johnson. I've been too high on Jalen Johnson. I'm a little bit concerned about what Paul George's offensive load is going to look like in Philly. DeMar, too, I don't know what this fit is going to be in Sacramento, so I'm just going to bet on the upside. I'm going to take Jalen Johnson here. So through 4 rounds, we've got the guard from Detroit, Cade Cunningham. We've got Scotty Barnes and Jalen Johnson and Anthony Davis as our big. So to stay true to our word, we should be taking a wing in the 5th round. Now, of course, it's going to depend what is left on the board for us, but we'll take a look here in a second. Just a few picks away, we have Brandon Ingram queued up, and as you can see, the wing position kind of falls off a cliff here, which we've talked about in many other videos. But after Brandon Ingram, it goes Denny, Jabari Smith, Michael Porter Jr., Tobias Harris, Keegan Murray. So it's a little bit tough. So if Ingram's not on the board, which he just gets taken at 55, I don't know if that's the direction we can go. We might have to wait till round 6 to grab our next wing. Now, Fred VanVleet's on the board. Jamal Murray's on the board. The reason I wanted Ingram to get to round 5 is because, well, I wanted to take Emmanuel quickly with my 57th pick, as we saw Mambatar snipes him. Yes, this is a pretty tricky spot. I think we're just going to take Fred VanVleet here. And even though I'm not like super in love with Fred VanVleet this year, we'll grab some Fred VanVleet. I think normally in that spot, as you can see, I was very unsure with that pick. I would go Jamal Murray. But because I've been going Jamal Murray so often, I want a little bit more exposure. And Jamal Murray was a little bit concerning there down the stretch of the NBA playoffs, and then what we saw from him from Team Canada in the Olympics. I still think he's going to be fine, but it makes me a little bit nervous, so we're going to stay away from Jamal, though. I guess we still could take him at pick 63, and that would give us 3 guards and 2 wings. The other option here is to go get Denny or Jabari Smith Jr. Maybe we build out a little Houston stack. Why don't we do that? Why don't we build out a little H-Town, huh? We'll start with Freddie and then Jabari Smith Jr. So that does give us our 3rd wing by the 6th round. So again, we sort of followed the rules, but not entirely. So a little recap. We got 2 guards in Cade and Fred. We got 3 wings with Scottie, Jalen, and Jabari Smith Jr. And then the big boy, Anthony Davis. As we look ahead to round 7's pick, there are a couple bigs that I would be intrigued with if they are still on the board in Jalen Duren and Miles Turner. Otherwise, probably wait and go wing guard for our next 2 picks. I'm going to queue up a few targets right now. I know we're still 16 picks away. I'm going to leave Denny on there. I'm excited about Desmond Bane. I mentioned Jalen Duren. Anthony Simons I've been a pretty big fan of. And then when we look at the wings, at this point too, I'm probably I think I'm a little bit more interested in someone like Asar Thompson, Aaron Gordon, maybe this range a little bit more than I am, say, Tobias Harris and OG Anunoby. And then we'll throw Devin Vassell. So I've just put 6 guys queued up. Hopefully we can get 2 of these by the time it's for our next pick. Well, as you can see, our Q quest was foiled. We were in a pretty sharp draft. You want to look at some of these recent picks here. We saw Aaron Gordon go 75, followed by Darius Garland, Anthony Simons. Devin Vassell, by the way, went all the way up. At 70. Austin Reeves comes off the board. So we do get Asar Thompson here. We can pair him up with a little Detroit Cade Cunningham. So I know his projection's not super high. I think what we're going to end up doing here is go Asar Thompson, and then I might just click Trey Murphy next, mainly because then we can probably not draft a wing here for quite some time. Because again, the wing position just gets super gross. I mean, I know there's Middleton, Trace Jackson Davis, Jaime Jaquez, Jeremy Grant. I mean, those are all fine, but nobody I'm really excited about. I think Trey Murphy has a much higher upside. We're looking at the guard position. The guard position is just so deep, right? Like we can still get so many of these guys a little bit later in the draft. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to click Trey Murphy next, get a little aggressive on the wing position. So through 8 rounds, we're sitting at Anthony Davis as our lone big. Our wing position is filled up with Scottie Barnes, Jalen Johnson, Jabari Smith Jr., Asar Thompson, and then Trey Murphy, who we just took. And then we have 2 guards. We had Cade Cunningham and Freddie VanVleet leading the way. We'll look to target a guard and then a big here our next time down. So DeAndre Ayton I mentioned, who just got taken off the board, so I won't queue him up. If we look at the next bigs that I'm not really super interested in Jusuf Nurkic. I mean, we could throw Derek Lively up there, but I actually think there's a little bit more value in Daniel Gafford than Derek Lively right now, just because of the huge discrepancy in where they're getting drafted. See, Lively's going an average 97, Gafford 135, and I mean, they're still going to split time in Dallas. Like, I do think Lively is a more exciting player to roster. I do think he has a little bit more upside, but I think considering you're taking 40 picks later, I think Gafford's a fine play. But I might pull up Mark Williams here. Those who watch the show know I'm a huge Mark Williams guy. I feel like he's going to get a bounce back here as he's healthy. LaMelo comes back. So we'll queue up Mark Williams. Let's look at some of these guards. Tyler Hero's right here on the board. I'm interested in him. I'm interested in Scoot Henderson as well. I know, Scoot, you might have a little bad taste in your mouth after what we saw in his rookie season. However, the last couple months look solid. Looks like Anthony Simons or Jeremy Grant or both are going to get traded from Portland. So it should be the Scoot show, and they're not trying to win, right? They're not trying to win right now. So we'll throw Scoot on that list as well. Maybe, it hates me to say it, maybe Jordan Poole, maybe the pod god Brandon Pajemski, who I'm pretty high on, and we'll sneak Keontae George up on the queue as well. So hopefully when we check back in 15 picks, everybody's still there. The sharp draft continues as most of the people we queued up are gone, as we're a few picks away from our 9th round selection, pick 106, but we do still have the pod god Keontae George still on the board. We can also look at some other guards here, like Drew Holiday still there, Bradley Beal. I'm not really super interested in these guys. I like the upside in both Keontae and Brandon Pajemski. Brandon Pajemski's going to have to do a lot more. He was already a pretty useful, serviceable guard last season for the Golden State Warriors. You removed Klay Thompson. I know they added Melton and Buddy Hield, but clearly they didn't want to include Pajemski in a trade for Lowry Marketing, so they absolutely believe in him. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take Pajemski here. And then as we're only 4 picks away from our 10th round pick, we kind of have a decision. We can take Keontae George here at pick 111 or go for our second big and then maybe shut the big conversation down the rest of the way. So I think that's what we are going to do. If Mark Williams is still there, we see Eric Church is with 3 bigs already with Chet Holmgren, Rudy Gobert, and Zach Edey. He then takes Wiggins. We'll see if big Mark Williams falls to us. So it wouldn't be a Mike Zakarian draft if we didn't take Mark Williams. So welcome aboard, Mark. Buzz. That's our second center. So far, we've been very close to our rules, right? We took 3 guards in our first 6 rounds, but it was close. We had a late 5th, early 6th. We took an elite big in the first round, which means we're only taking 2. We're done taking bigs the rest of the way. And that's kind of why we took Mark Williams now, because I didn't want to take these fringe bigs later on. Now, there is one caveat to that rule. If somehow there's some crazy value or a third big falls, maybe we'll make a selection there. For the rest of the way, I think we are peppering guards and wings. So as we look up the queue, we still got Keontae George available as we're 16 picks away. But let's try to find a couple other high value guys. Go back to the Portland Trailblazers. Well, if Scoot Henderson's primed for a good season, I think Shaedon Sharpe is too. I think a lot of people forgot about Shaedon Sharpe since he got hurt last year. But he's got a ton of offensive upside. And again, I don't think these Trailblazers are going to be trying. I think we're going to see a lot of Shaedon Sharpe minutes. Round 11 pick, Shaedon Sharpe fell. So we get to take Shaedon here. He becomes our 4th guard on the squad. All right, so I am going to queue up the new Phoenix Suns point guard in Tyus Jones. It's not my favorite pick, but looking at some of these guards, I don't really know who's got massive upside here. I do like Benedict Mathurin, but I've been taking him a lot, and I honestly think he's going to fall another 10 to 15 picks. So we're going to take Tyus Jones for the Phoenix Suns. We'll add him. So through 12, we are now up to 5 guards, 5 wings, and 2 big boys. Now, we only have 4 picks left in this draft, and this is the time where I just start thinking about massive upside. I think very rarely are you going to be using these guys this late to help get you through week to week. So here I'm going to be looking for a lot of like young, unproven guys, maybe rookies who are in good spots that are going to take off as those teams start tanking. That's why I like attacking teams like the Blazers and the Jazz. All right, we're back on the clock here. Round 13. I got to tell you, I don't really love this spot. Not a bunch of guys that I'm excited about. You see I have Donovan Clingan and Khalil Ware queued up, but it's a little bit early for them, a little bit early for Ware, and I know I didn't really want to take another big, but I'm interested in him if he's still going to be there in the next round. So I think what I might do is just throw Reed Sheppard in there, which I don't really love this pick, if I'm being honest, because I don't think I don't really know what Reed Sheppard's position is going to look like on that team. I think he's going to get some minutes, but not enough to be relevant. But hey, maybe it's a little Fred VanVleet insurance. If Fred VanVleet goes down, then we know Reed Sheppard's going to step up a little bit. I am prepared, though, to take Donovan Clingan here with this 3rd pick, which again, I wasn't planning on it, but I don't really love this range of player. And what I do like about the Klingon is that, again, he fits that category of playing for a team like the Portland Trailblazers that will not be trying down the stretch. There's still a real possibility. I know I mentioned that Jeremy Grant or Anthony Simons or both gets moved, but the front office has also talked about moving one, if not both of their bigs. I don't know who's going to be absorbing DeAndre Ayton's contract, but we could see the Time Lord get moved, and then, hey, listen, there's going to be plenty of weeks where DeAndre Ayton can't get out of his driveway because it's too icy. For anybody that remembers that situation from last year. And if the Blazers do go in full tank mode, Klingan's going to be playing a ton, so I don't mind it at all. So we have 2 picks left in the draft. We are going to hope the Miami big man, who for whatever reason is labeled as a wing here on Underdog, we are going to hope that he gets all the way down to round 15, because that would be my favorite next pick. And if Ware isn't there, I do like taking Nikola Jovic in those spots, because I feel like one, if not both, can do some stuff for Miami this year. So we're going to throw them in there. And now we're going to look at a few guards that we're going to hope. I mean, Rob Dillingham is somebody that is interesting. Ben Simmons, I'm fine if it's your last pick. I don't really trust it, but we'll throw it in the queue. Bub Carrington, the rookie from Washington. I really liked what I saw from him in Summer League this year. I feel like he could be a good fit. I also don't hate Alonzo Ball. Click, you know, it's the offseason. He's kind of like a smaller version of Ben Simmons, where we see a bunch of shirtless videos of him looking healthy and ready to play basketball again. Then I'll throw one more name at you that he doesn't get drafted a lot, but I am interested in Julian Strawther of the Denver Nuggets. I know a lot of people are going to say Christian Brown is a good late pick for Denver because he's probably going to be in the starting 5 with the Nuggets. I'm assuming it's going to look something like Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Nikola Jokic, and then Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon. However, I do think they're going to have to rely on some of these young guys. Strawther, who showed some promise in Summer League now 2 years in a row, had a couple decent games for Denver last season before having an injury that kept him out of the rotation. And I am intrigued by him because he's not getting drafted. So if he does pop off, it's going to make your roster construction super unique as you get through the first round and then into the playoff stretch run. All right, we are on the board. Round 15. We got 2 picks left. We are going to grab the Miami big man who made it all the way down to 178. So we're going to take Khalil Ware from the Miami Heat. He should get those backup minutes for Bam Adebayo. And then, hey, if for whatever reason Bam goes down, or maybe they try playing Bam at the 4, we'll see some more Ware. Here we go, last pick of the draft. Let's do this. Let's win that 100K. And I just talked him up. We're going to do it. Julian Strawther. Let's make it happen. From the Denver Nuggets. We'll see what happens with that season. Put the second-year man onto the squad. All right, let's do a little draft recap, see if anything sticks out here. So I think the most unique thing that happened in this draft was Jaylen Brown going as high as 7, which is kind of crazy in its own right, but then he went even before his teammate Jason Tatum was a little wild. But then Kripa turns around and goes Ja Morant, Zion Williamson after that. He goes Damian Lillard, Brandon Ingram, Green, Levine, Jaquez, PJ, and then Keontae, Gafford, Capella, Mathurin, Patty Wills, Sadiq Bey, and Trey Jones. So not too wild outside of just firing off of Jaylen Brown, 7th overall. I think looking at my roster, I feel pretty comfortable. We started off with Anthony Davis big. I got to be honest, when I'm doing these drafts, I really want to be in the spot where I get to take Giannis. Either, and there's a case to be made that Giannis should be going 1 overall, but I want to be in that top 3 range and try to end up with Giannis or snag Tatum, because after that, it just makes roster construction a little bit difficult. Like we look at Mamba Tar, who had a really solid draft, but he starts Sabonis, Trae Young. Then he's got Kawhi and DeMar DeRozan, which has a combined age of 85 for his 2 wings that he's going to have to rely on the most for that output. But anyways, we started Anthony Davis. We were fortunate enough that Scotty Barnes fell all the way to 15 with LeBron and Chet going at that turn of the 1-2 round. And then we're able to get Cade Cunningham, a ton of upside in somebody like Jalen Johnson and Jabari Smith, Asar Thompson as well, with Fred VanVleet as a guard thrown in there. We had Trey Murphy, Pajemski, the pod god, Mark Williams, Shaedon Sharpe, Tyus Jones, Reed Shep, Donovan Clingan, and Khalil Ware, followed by Julian Strother. So very comfortable with that roster. But one of the things we talked about was having 3 wings in the first 5 rounds. I thought it'd be interesting to see how many teams did that. You see Hefty, who went in the 101, started with Jokic, Fox, and then Devin Booker. So did not pick up his first wing until round 4, did then rattle off 3 in a row. So similar to what we ended up doing is ending up with 3 in the first 6. Went Kuzma, Butler, Tobias Harris, Amin Thompson. Actually went 4 straight wings. So if you are going to do something like that, like Hefty did with a big guard first 3 rounds, I like how he turned around and was like, okay, I just need to spray and pray for wings, because he had his guards locked up in Fox and Booker, and then also his big man in Jokic. Now, Twisted Fantasy had a similar situation where he went Wemby, Brunson, and Mitchell in his first 3 picks, but then went with the big Evan Mobley, and then went Miles Bridges with his first wing, and then went 2 more bigs on 2 more guards, 3 more guards, 4 more guards, 5 more guards. He doesn't get his second wing until round 13, then fires off a couple of Pacers and Aaron Nesmith and Obi Toppin, Kobe Brown, from the Clippers, and then the rookie Terrence Shannon Jr. So, yes, he ended up with 5 wings, but honestly, we only know 3 of them are going to be contributing on a night-to-night basis. So that's kind of the danger if you're not taking those wings early. I don't think every single draft has to be cookie cutter, but you do put yourself in a tough situation. I mean, to have 4 bigs in the first 7 rounds, when you use your first round pick, especially if it's a second pick overall and you use it on a big, you have to know that Wembanyama is probably going to be your highest scorer week in and week out. So you don't need to take another big. You definitely don't need to take 3 more bigs in Mobley, Miles Turner, and Jalen Duren. So let's look at a team's roster that starts out with a wing and how much easier it is to build. So you see we get Giannis in the 3 hole from Felber. Goes Şengün with the second pick, Lauri Markkanen in the first pick. So I know we said we'd like to have 3 wings in the first 5 rounds. I do think if your first wing is Giannis, you kind of can treat that similarly how we treated the big, where you know that Giannis, if you're wasting or using that much draft capital on somebody like that, you know he needs to be a contributor in and out. But then follows it up with Lauri Markkanen, so he's got 2 wings in the first 3 rounds, then fires off some guards. We got Jalen Williams from the OKC Thunder, Cam Thomas, Devin Vassell. Then he goes back to a wing with Aaron Gordon, another Jordan Poole, gets his second big, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Then Cam Johnson, Herb Jones, 2 more wings. We got Suggs, Draymond Green, Marcus Smart, Mitchell Robinson, and shout out the Batman, Grant Williams. It's a really solid draft from Felber there. Now, this Gambling Gatsby had a really solid start too, with the Lucas Siakam. Spicy P falling all the way to 21 is pretty nice. I know his ADP is right around that range, but I've seen Spicy P go as high as 17 in some of these drafts. So to get him at 21 is solid. Then he gets Bam Adebayo, and then listen, he read the rules, baby. Follows that up with Mikal Bridges and Jonathan Kuminga. So secured those 3 wings in the first 5. He's got a staple and a big in Bam Adebayo, and then also Luka Magic. And then does something similar to we do, where you just kind of pepper guards and wings from there on out, right? Kobe White, Darius Garland, John Collins, gets his Jonas Valanciunas, a little Russell Westbrook, Naz Reid, Bilal Coulibaly, who we didn't really talk about in this draft, but a big fan of, Ayo, Clarkson, Harrison Barnes, and Malcolm Brogdon. So finishes that draft with 3 bigs. Beautiful. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Josh in a similar situation that we were, right, using your first round pick on a big. He's got Joel Embiid 5th overall. And then he bangs out 2 guards in Steph Curry and LaMelo Ball. So his first wing doesn't come until round 4. That's Franz Wagner. And then the little dicey here, because he goes Jaren Jackson Jr., who I love, but then 2 guards back-to-back, Desmond Bane and Anthony Simons. His second wing was Milwaukee Buck Chris Middleton, who's coming off of not having 1, but 2 off-season procedures, which always makes me a little bit nervous. Then Jeremy Grant, Stephon Castle. So does still have 4 wings through 10, so he's not like dead in the water or anything like that, but not a lot of guys you can count on. But Jonathan Isaac, some high upside there late in round 12, and then Gigi Jackson and Ron Holland. We'll look at our guy Maxwell, start out with SGA, and then fired off 3 wings in a row with the Durantula, Orange Julius Randle, and then second-year phenom Brandon Miller. He then gets Josh Giddey up as his second guard, which I think is pretty good value there in round 5. I mean, I know that's where he's going, but those are 2 high-performing guards there. And to get one in the first round and then not get another one until the 5th round, but still know that you're going to have 2 guys that are really contributing, I think that's pretty solid. Follows it up with Denny. Then Nick Claxton becomes his first big. So that's round 7. First big is Nick Claxton. So it'll be curious to see how he handles this the rest of the way. You go Scoot, picks Derek Lively up 2 rounds later, which I think is a nice pairing with Nick Claxton. And then 2 rounds after that goes Zubac and Brolo. Now, I'm not usually a huge fan of getting 4 bigs, but when your first one is right around round 7, totally makes sense to do that. Mimsy gets Jason Tatum to fall all the way to pick 8, which is a godsend right there. So he goes Tatum, Hallie, Maxey, and then Paul George. Really solid 2-guard, 2-wing start. Vucci Main and Jared Allen, 2 bigs right after that, followed by RJ Barrett. We haven't talked in this video, but I am a fan of what RJ's doing right now. Yusuf Nurkic, I don't think you need to take there because that's now 3 bigs through 8 rounds, and you've already used picks 5 and 6 on bigs. I don't think you need to get a 3rd one that early, but hey, to each their own. Then goes to Poland to get Jeremy Sohan, Drew Holiday, Oubre, Strussi, Buddy Hield, Kispert, Conley, GTJ there at the end. That's solid. We already went over Mamba with the Sabonis start. We did mine with the beautiful AD Scotty start. Ball Master there had Ant-Man, Paolo, Cat Towns. Some little teammate love there with pick round 1 and 3. Gets a good wing in round 2 with Paolo Banchero. Then goes Kyrie, Michael Porter Jr., and Keegan Murray. I think those are pretty good back-to-back picks. Keegan, I'm like so fascinated to see what his role is going to look like with DeMar DeRozan coming in. But Harrison Barnes going out. Is the shot going to continue to fall? Because we saw some real spikes from Keegan Murray last year. And then Porzingis is his first big. Porzingis has his second big there is kind of nice in round 8, even though he's not going to be available till February as long as Cat does his thing because he took him in round 3. Porzingis can help carry the load there when he comes back in Febs. And then we get CJ McCollum, big body, Keldon Johnson, Bradley Beal, McDaniels, Walker Kessler Ranger there in round 12. Is that? Or yeah, round 12. And then Caruso Hendricks, I love that late upside pick there. Guy from Utah, Bojan Bogdanovic, who knows how much he plays. And then the Dort report there, rounding off. And last but not least, let's look at our guy Church. Or Hurst. It's Eric Hurst. I don't know why I keep seeing the word church. I'm an idiot. So LeBron goes 12, which I think is fine. That's fine. I think the Chet going 13 is I mean, I get it. But that's early. I think that's early. But anyways, we go LeBron and then Chet, then fires off 3 guards in DeJounte Murray, James Harden, Derek White. Then he gets his second big in Rudy Gobert, OG Anunoby, third big in Zach Edey. Now, you can't do any more bigs. This is too many. You got 3, you're good here. He goes Paul, CP3, Andrew Wiggins, Malik Monk. Gets another big in Bobby Portis. And then Slow-Mo, who's now in Golden State, Dalton Connect, the Rook from the Lakers, Grayson Allen, and Cole Anthony. So there you go. That's the draft. I think there's some interesting I think when this draft started and Jaylen Brown went 7 overall, I thought it was going to be crazy, but it ended up being pretty solid. If I, of course I want to say I won the draft. I thought Hefty did a really good job. I know it's to say like, hey, congratulations, you had the first overall pick and you did a good job. But sometimes it puts you in a tough spot when you're not able to take some of those wings early. I thought handled that really well. And the Kelber Felber was pretty solid as well. So that was fun. There you have it. We're on our way to 100K. Appreciate everybody hanging out for this draft. Let me know in the comments, who do you think won this draft? Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell so you know the next time we're dropping that sweet alpha on winning 100K.